In the inaugural edition of Detroit Sports Media Monthly, there's a lot to talk about. Hi, I'm Roy J. Akers, and in our show this month, we're going to take a look at the Detroit Red Wings' inaugural season from the players and from GM Kenny Holland himself. The Detroit Red Wings' inaugural season at the LCA was less than a success. After making the playoffs for 25 straight years, they've missed it for the last two, and that doesn't sit right with anybody.
So I would say to you that last year we had the seventh, I think we had the seventh odds going into the draft. We ended up going back 2 spots. So 2 years in a row we're 7th and 5th. Now you go into a lottery. So, I guess for 2 years right now we've bottomed out.
The Detroit Red Wing players have a difference of opinion on what they need to do to improve, whether it's them or the team themselves. And we have some of that. And for Dylan Larkin, it starts with where he goes in the Worlds this year.
I'm going back this year. I want to win. I think, I saw Patrick Kane was added to the team and named captain, which is awesome. It's an experience for me. It's not being complacent with finishing early April. Playing hockey and is what it's all about. And I just think I'm young, got a lot of energy, got a lot of passion, so I want to keep playing. And with the passing of Jim Johansson and the efforts that it seems from USA Hockey, we want to go over there and win. And we're trying to put together a team that we can do that.
Tyler Bertuzzi had a breakout season in the inaugural season of the LCA. He tells us what he's going to do moving forward.
I think it's a process, but I don't think we're far off at all. We're in a lot of one-goal games where we could have went either way. But I know everyone in this room doesn't think we're far off, and we're all going to prove that next season.
If there's one thing that you play GM for the day, what is one thing you'd like to see happen? I know that's a question that's a little different, but
yeah. Oh, I don't know. That's a good one. I'm not sure I have an answer for that one right now.
According to Dylan Larkin, Henrik Zetterberg is still an elite player in the NHL, and Zetterberg tells us what he feels like the team is going to be like moving forward.
I think some nights we're not that far off, but some nights we have a really long way to go. So that's been our biggest challenge, I think, the last 2 years, so consistency, and then something that we have to get better at. You guys love stats, so I think you're aware of that we lost a lot of one-goal games, and that is the difference of not standing down and packing yourself up and we'll keep playing. But in the same way, good teams find a way to win those games.
The theme is going to be rebuild. The theme is going to be youth. The theme is going to be putting some young players onto the team. I'm going to go out, Jeff Blashill's going out tomorrow to watch Chalowski play a game, to watch Rasmussen a game. We're going to go to Grand Rapids and we'll watch, I'm going to watch Hronek play and Svechnikov play and the players down there. And, the guy where do we fit in the lottery and who are we getting in the lottery? Can that player come in? Can he make our team? So at the end of the day, I'm hoping and expecting that minimum of 2, maybe 4 or 5 kids between the age of 19 and 22 are on the roster next year.
Detroit Red Wing fans didn't have a lot to smile about in the inaugural season at the LCA, but coming up next year, there's going to be a lot of changes on the team, and the team is going to get a lot younger, so a lot more losses are going to pile up before things get better. For Detroit Sports Media, this is Roy J. Akers reporting.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, "Read your lease. No pets allowed." My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Most party fouls are pretty dumb. But if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Underage drinking and driving. The ultimate party foul.
Hi, I'm Bernhard Langer, and I'm looking forward to a busy day at the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship Media Day. I will share my morning recipe for success and host a fun skills challenge.
You, in fact, won't be here next month to host your Champions Dinner or to compete in the championship, will you?
Yeah, I won't be. And the reason is our youngest son, he's 18 now, he's graduating from high school on that very same weekend. Family always comes first in my life, so hopefully we'll see you in a year from now.
DJ Ho graduate Sergeant Jason Stoller hired NFL wide receiver Braylon Edwards, Dylan Walters,
It's amazing to see love for the game and the respect for each other. It's just a thrill to see different people from different walks of life enjoying the game of golf.
Detroit Tigers 2018 edition certainly has much different hopes than the 1968 version, who felt they were on the verge of a championship. 3 players from that team talk about how building on the failure in 1967 motivated them in a season-long 50-year celebration of 1968. The 50-year celebration of the 1968 team is happening all season long at Comerica Park, and for 3 former Detroit Tigers, it was an experience that they will never forget.
Important thing to me at that year I look back at is we always believe in ourselves. We always believe as a team. We always believe we're not out of the game to the last strike, not the last inning, the last strike. And we did some amazing things thinking and believing like that. We got beat, but we know how we got beat. We took it in. I remember a lot of time the veteran players, you know, we used to tell the manager and coach, go ahead, we had to take care of some business in the clubhouse. And we took care of our own place. We learned how to police each other, and that's the important thing.
One of the things that inspired the 68 Tigers was their disappointing loss during the 67 season. They explain why it was such a difficult thing and how it gave them that great big boost.
I think the players came to spring training with a purpose. That was to win. And not worried about the name on the back, but worried about the name on the front, the Detroit Tigers. And we were all disappointed that we lost in 67, but it was a great race. And I think, in my opinion, I thought it motivated us to go on and become world champions in 68.
Al Kaline notes that there were so many contributors to that team, and he mentions a few of them.
One of my favorites all time, of course, I mentioned Bill Freehand, but Dick McAuliffe, in my opinion, was a guy that played really hard all the time, and he was a great competitor. He was called Mad Dog, and he would get in a skirmish every once in a while, and of course, watching Willie, the tremendous strength that he had, and how many times he won games in the late innings with home runs, and in fact, we had a thing going. Oh, it's the 7th inning now. It's time for Willie to get started.
Longtime Detroit news writer Lynn Henning tells about the legacy of the 1968 Tigers.
No question about it. Everybody was weary, and not just because of the riots. They were weary of the Vietnam War. They were very, very weary of racial strife and the divisions that were creating so much injustice in this town and elsewhere. We needed something to feel good about, something that would really bind us together, something that could give us a chance to high-five one another all the time. And the 68 Tigers did that. I think they were very much part of a tapestry nationally and locally. And for that reason, again, they have an enchanting nature to them that is different from other teams.
The 1968 Detroit Tigers are still remembered today as one of the great teams in Detroit history. For Detroit Sports Media, this is Roy J. Akers reporting. We'll talk later as longtime Detroit news writer Lynn Henning recounts what the 68 team means to the city of Detroit.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Observe a domesticated human family in their natural habitat, known to their species as the backyard.
Hey, you think I should light it now?
I think it's good.
Yeah?
Oh dear, someone is about to burn a pile of debris that's too tall, which can start a wildfire. Wait, could it be? Blimey, it is.
It's Smokey.
It's Smokey Bear. What a legend.
What's he
Hey,
doing
it's
here?
Smokey. Sorry, it was too high. Right.
Watch as he astutely ensures that there's no wind, and how he removes some of the debris to create a smaller, safer burning pile.
Well, you said, no, you said make it bigger, baby. The bigger, the better.
Take note of our fearless furry friend here, humans.
I appreciate it. Fist bump.
Watching you.
Smokey's done it again.
Bye, Smokey.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
When we return, the Detroit Sports Media hosted the Detroit Grand Prix Media Day at Lear Innovation Center in downtown Detroit. We have the covers when we return.
I'll never forget the day our landlord called and said, read your lease. No pets allowed. My owner tells him my dog ate the lease, but that didn't work. And now I'm stuck in a shelter. But this pit bull is ready for a new crib. I'm loving, loyal, and play well with others. So don't be intimidated by all my muscles, because the biggest one I have is my heart. That's right, I said it.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Penske CEO Bud Danker gave us an unexpected present of $2,000 that is going to go to the journalism departments for winners in the DSM contest coming up in May. Our own Trevor Thompson spoke to Penske CEO Bud Danker on the surprise gift.
Bud, you were so generous offering the Detroit Sports Media $2,000 to contribute to their scholarship program. What about the Detroit Sports Media prompted you to do that on the spot so spontaneously like that?
Well, you guys have done such a great job for our community. Obviously, you cover the great sports packages and the teams and the franchises we have around, and that's your core competency, obviously. But what you guys do behind the scenes that most people don't realize is the scholarships, the education, helping young students, helping young people with their careers, and that's what we're about at Penske, also at the Grand Prix, is bringing a lot of students down to the Grand Prix every year for STEM initiatives, to learn about what goes on and the physics of racing. And that's why I spur the moment and said that we can help out here, and I hope that's it helps you in a small way, and we're certainly happy to do that.
Certainly very generous, and we're very appreciative. It's also an example of you giving back to the community, and obviously uplifting Belle Isle to the point you have, and you mentioned it up in your talk about how it wasn't safe before and now it is. How much has that really helped turn around the city and certainly help this race as far as its development goes?
Well, every great city needs a place for people to recreate, right? And Belle Isle provides that. It has for generations, and it was in its downfall, a couple of decades ago, and we came in with a race and we wanted to help out. After Roger had the Super Bowl here in '06, it was what's next, and what's next for us was to first of all bring racing back, but also to help out Belle Isle. And since then, over $13 million has been invested in Belle Isle through ourselves and our great partners, and the state of Michigan through MDOT has helped on the roadways as well. And we're not stopping there. We're going to keep giving back and keep having this wonderful race here, we hope, in the future as well too, and showcasing our city and our region, because it brings also $58 million of spending last year brought to this region. That's big money. That helps our tax base, it helps out people, it helps employment, and those things are all byproducts of having our event here.
And as far as the race circuit goes, how big a race is in the city of Detroit now that racing has come back to the the city?
Well, this is a big one because we're the only event on the circuit that has 2 IndyCar races in one weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Big time pressure on the drivers, the crews to get the cars ready. It's a lot of work. Being Team Penske, I know the work these guys go into, but that's important for our sponsors to have 2 events here, Saturday and Sunday, but also get to showcase our city around the world 2 days in a row, and that's immeasurable in terms of the value.
How cool to get a guy like Tony Kanaan to come and do a part of this luncheon as well to promote the race.
Hey, Tony's just, everybody loves Tony, right? It's because of what he does. He came here last night at 9 o'clock at night after a race in Alabama to be with our volunteers last night. I mean, how many athletes would do that, right? Tough weekend. He had a tough result. It wasn't his best weekend. It was rainy. It was wet. He was tired. Landed here at 8:30 and was in front of our volunteers to thank them at 9 o'clock last night. That's the kind of guy Tony Kanaan is.
Looking to the future, what other things are in store to make this race bigger and better as time goes on?
Well, we're going to change a lot of things this year. We've moved some grandstands around for better viewing. Our fans told us this in feedback. We ask them every year about what could we do better, and we're changing some grandstands around, including the back straightaway, which has got 175-mile-an-hour speeds, and people want to be back there. We're changing the victory lane to be around the Scott Fountain, which will be just beautiful views as well. And we're also going to, clean up and make that casino a better place as well too again this year. And if it wasn't for our event, that Scott Fountain would not be flowing, and it's going to flow Memorial Day weekend because of our partnership with DTE and having our event here.
Well, thanks for everything you've done for us and for the city. Continued success.
Thanks, Trevor. Appreciate you guys being here.
Also in our Grand Prix coverage, I speak to one of the most accomplished drivers on the IndyCar circuit, Tony Kanaan, and we discuss everything from tattoos to driving for the legend, A.J. Foyt. With me is Indianapolis 500 champion Tony Kanaan. Tony, it's just awesome having you here in Detroit after a tough weekend that you had in Alabama. A real trooper. You come out and entertain the troops today.
No, I mean, it's a pleasure. This is always a venue that we're looking forward to come, and Detroit has always been really nice to me. So happy to be here, happy to kick off the 38 days to go to the race. I know there's a lot of work involved, and I can't wait to be here.
Taking a look at the tattoo on your arm, you have a lot of tattoos all over. Look at that. He's flexing for us. So you can't buy that, folks. But take a look at that Grand Prix. That's awesome when you have a creative arts student adding to your temporary collection anyway. What's it like? Having all your tattoos are personal, but what does this one mean?
I mean, obviously, we wanted to support the kids. John is a really good kid. He designed a poster for the race, so we play a little joke. Obviously, this is temporary, guys. It's not permanent. But I said, hey, come on. Let's see how good you are. Do it in my arm. And then he did it. He did it on the spot. And I'll leave it until it fades out when I shower next time.
Well, there you go. You are driving. Actually, you signed a multi-year contract with A.J. Foyt last fall. Driving for one of the most, probably the biggest name in American auto sports. What an honor. I mean, driving for him, can you wrap your mind around that?
Yeah, I mean, you get used to it eventually, but it was awesome. When I signed it, I couldn't believe it. Right? I have a lot to learn from him still. Although I've been around for 21 years, he still gives me a lot of good advices that I'm glad that he's around. I'm glad that I can take the opportunity to pick his brain in many things, and hopefully we'll make the team very, very, very successful.
Now, taking a look, you won the Indianapolis 500, 5 years ago this year. Took you a lot of attempts to win that race. When you finally broke through, that must have made it extra sweet. What was going through your mind when you were racing?
When I was racing, I didn't want to think about it because it was something that I've done it in the past years, and it didn't go right. So, but after I won, it was the biggest relief. Obviously, I was trying up until then, had 12 tries and hadn't succeeded. So it was, the best day of my life for sure.
The Detroit Grand Prix is self-described by you and a lot of people as the toughest road course on the entire circuit. What are some things that you need to look out in the double race that's coming up this, the weekend?
First of all, it's a bumpy racetrack, so you have to have your car dialed in for the type of track we're racing. There's a track that doesn't accept any mistakes. There's walls on both sides everywhere. It's narrow. And with the double header, one race Saturday, one Sunday, you have to hydrate and keep in mind that you have to rest, because that's the only place that we race twice in one weekend. So it's one of the toughest weekends of the racing season for us.
So the IndyCar season isn't a long season like NASCAR and some others that have almost 40 races. well, you have to have a great start at Indy in the 2 points races, you know, that you have at Belle Isle. You it's either win or what happens if you don't do well in those 3 races, the triangle.
Well, we just keep digging. You know, that's all you got to do, man. That's racing.
Just keep digging. Finally, you know, look, you signed a multi-year deal. You obviously have raced 21 years. You're going to be racing for at least a few more, probably a bunch more. If you could look 5 years down the road, what will Tony Kanaan, what do you have any goals that you've kind of plotted out along the line, or you just kind of play it by ear?
No, I know. The next 5 years, winning as many races as we can. And maybe I can win 3 or 4 more Indy 500s, and I'll be the all-time record winner there. So we'll see.
Well, you only got 3 to go to catch AJ and a few other ones, Alan, for sure. Tony Kanaan, I want to thank you very much for coming on the Detroit Sports Media. It has been awesome. Thanks for taking your time, and good luck, because I want to see you holding that great big trophy coming up June 2nd or 3rd. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
All right.
Me and my boy Matt had it good. He had catnip that was off the hook. But one day, he brings a girl home, and she's allergic to cats. Every sneeze was a nail in my coffin. Now I'm in a shelter. It's decent, but they don't even have Wi-Fi.
Hi, I'm Bernhard Langer, and I'm looking forward to a busy day at the KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship Media Day. I will share my morning recipe for success and host a fun skills challenge.
This was the one that was missing in the collection. I still feel, even now at age 60, that I can get better. And some people think, you gotta be crazy. I'm saying, no, it's, you know, you can have a better technique, you can still become a better chipper and putter.
DJ Ho graduate Sergeant Jason Stoller. Hired NFL wide receiver Braylon Edwards. Dylan Walters.
It's amazing to see love for the game and the respect for each other. It's just a thrill to see different people from different walks of life enjoying the game of golf.
The PBA Tour makes a visit to the famed Thunder Bowl in Allen Park. The unique format tournament shows a new look PBA. Special correspondent and Greater Detroit Bowling MDU SBC President Mark Martin talks with PBA Commissioner Tom Clark and what the tour will look like moving forward. With me is Tom Clark, PBA Commissioner. Tom, PBA Tour has had a lot of changes over the last few years. What are some of the exciting things that you've seen happen?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the style of play and the players that are succeeding in the PBA. They're very young, they're very exciting. They bowl in ways that people never really would have even imagined a couple decades ago.
I love the tornado wind-up. That's what I call it.
Well, these two-hand bowlers and also just one-hand bowlers that are able to put more revolutions and speed on a bowling ball than anyone's ever seen in the history of the game. And the fact they're coming from all over the world. Like, just of the top 8 players we have here, we have people from Sweden, Australia, and England, and of course everywhere in the U.S. And so you have young players, you have you have young players, you have players from all over the world, and you have exciting styles of play. The really big thing from a business standpoint that's going on with the PBA is we've been on ESPN since 1979. It's been a long-standing, great relationship. But we have this opportunity in 2019 to move to Fox Sports. So you'll find the PBA on Fox next year, and it will mean a lot of improvements, more bowling on television, more bowling on broadcast television on Big Fox and on FS1. And then you'll see a different amounts of live bowling on television. So we're really excited about that new relationship.
Well, you know, there's something to be said for bowling on cable, but anytime you bowl on network TV, the Fox, the NBC, CBS, in this case it is Fox, that's exciting because those are the first stations that you see. It doesn't matter whether it's satellite, cable, or whatever, and that's a huge thing because it seems like when the PBA lost ABC many years ago with Chris Schenkel and them, you know, things were different. Now maybe this is a great opportunity for you.
Yeah, well, that was like a really sad moment in the history of our game, and when we lost ABC in 1996, and you know, this is our 60th anniversary of the PBA. It was founded in 1958 in Akron, and in our 60th year, to be able to make this announcement about a rebirth of the game and a chance to be back on broadcast television is really special, and it feels like this is going, you know, this year we've been celebrating the 60 most memorable moments in the history of the PBA, and one of them actually was the last show on ABC. One of them was the first show on ABC, and I think that 20 years down the road, 25 years down the road, when they look back at the 75th anniversary or the 100th anniversary of the PBA, this move to Fox will be one of those great moments in the history of the game.
You know, this arena is extremely historic. In this very room, when I was in middle school, way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, I met Don Carter and Dick Weber. He wasn't even, they had the great and the greatest tournament. Dick Weber was still among the great. And so, you know, I met, you know, like I say, Don Carter, Earl Anthony, Mark Roth, everybody bowled here, and the ladies bowled with the men, and they had their own tournament. And so that when you have, you know, great moment where you got the PBA finals happening in here, and there's a lot of excitement, it kind of all ties together in a nice, neat little bow.
This is a great place to be back during our 60th anniversary. You know, and 10 years ago, when we first started the World Series of Bowling, this was the location we had the first one, and it was really an awesome event and an awesome undertaking, and what really gave it wings was the fact we were in this historic building. And I can remember looking back at the old photos, and you know, they had the team event here before the PBA ever existed, and the beer teams would compete, and teams from different cities would compete in this arena when they really only had 4 lanes in the arena, and it was set up more for
there's
fans.
pictures on the wall out there.
The pictures are awesome, and now we filled it in with more lanes, but it's still, you know, really, I think arguably, if not definitely, the best place to watch bowling is in this arena, and we love to do television in here. So it's, we'll be back for years to come.
A couple more questions, but you've done some exciting things. I think the Japan Cup that's been created. I like the celebrity tournament that's being done. Those are some nice niche things. What kind of feedback are you getting from the bowling community?
Well, I think with everything, when you do something new, it's always, there's a little bit of a fear of, well, what is this? And maybe we don't like this, and this isn't tradition. But I think in almost all cases, people, you know, get used to things, and then they realize that this is really beneficial to the game. I mean, like the Chris Paul celebrity event, you know, we have such a young audience for that show, and then when I come here and I see the young fans that we have, you know, I didn't see that many young fans when I first started with the PBA, and that's really exciting to me. And I feel like when we do exciting events that include celebrities and other athletes having fun bowling and really respecting the PBA players, and when we start things like the PBA League, which shows the PBA players competing as part of a team, and you see their personalities come out a little bit more, those things are attractive to kids. And then the kids get to know a young player like a E.J. Tackett or a Marshall Ken or a Jesper Svensson, and these guys are only 22, 23, 24 years old themselves, and they want to come out and meet them. And I've seen so many kids here this weekend getting their pictures taken with the pros, and it's really great to see.
Yeah. A final question, you know, I think going back to the network TV thing, I remember when the PBA Tour had a lot of outside sponsors that had nothing to do with bowling. I mean, and hopefully getting back to the network, you can start seeing the car companies coming back, the beer companies, and other people that see the beneficial relationship, and hopefully that's what you see. Is that part of the model or part of the thinking that went behind that?
Absolutely. You're right on target. I think probably the best part of the new Fox relationship with the PBA is that Fox itself will be selling the advertising and sponsorships into our programming, and that's different from what we've had in the past with ESPN, where the sales responsibility fell to us. And when we were just trying to sell into specific programming that was on ESPN, you know, sometimes you run into situations where you talk to sponsors that already advertise on ESPN. So they, you know, they didn't need to get on ESPN that way. Now with Fox, they're already talking to all these different corporations and companies and businesses that want to sponsor and advertise on sports networks, and to be able to include the PBA in the portfolio, I think is going to be the answer to the problem of bringing people from outside the industry in to support, not only support the game, but use our game to reach big audiences.
Well, it doesn't. We are a runway. Well, you know, Tom. That's right. That's okay, though, Tom. It must be good.
Busy. Yeah, I like that it's busy. If we
busy's good, folks.
If we were standing here and nobody was here, I'd be really nervous. But
yeah,
we're in this arena and it's packed with fans, so they can walk in front all they want.
As we wrap it up, it must be great to be the CEO, and I can. Next time I see you, I'm sure that we're going to have even better things to talk about. So, Tom, thanks a lot for coming on to Detroit Sports Media, and we'll certainly make sure that we get that out there. One final thing, I've talked to some of the players in a closing salvo. They are excited about what's going on. I've heard 3 or 4 of them talk. I was over talking to someone, Andrew Anderson. I did a feature story. We had that coming, and he and some of the other bowlers are so excited, saying, you know, we are going in the right direction.
I love it.
So I'm going to compliment you going out, and so back to Detroit Sports Media. Thanks. In our final segment this month, longtime Detroit news writer Lynn Henning talks extensively what it was like in 1968 and what those Tiger champions meant to the city of Detroit. With me is a longtime beat writer for the Detroit News, Lynn Henning. You're actually an editor emeritus almost with the paper now. And you're dealing with these players and these great teams over the years. What do you most take from the 68 Tigers?
I was 16, Roy, and so it was a little bit before I became professionally engaged with baseball. But because the Tigers were the team that you grew up with in this state and in this town, I think primarily because the season was 162 games, and really from April until September or even October, the Tigers were the team that you kind of woke up with and went to bed with every night. And for that reason, they had an endearing quality to the populace at large. And as this whole incredible fairy tale unfurled in '68, everybody got really absorbed by it. And then there was all the drama. There were the late inning victories, the McLean 30th victory that year, which of course hadn't been done at that point in 34 years and hadn't been done in 51 years. Yeah, once in 84 years that's happened, and it happened that year with McLean. Then Lolich in the World Series, Mickey Stanley in the World Series. There was so much lore to it, so much incredible imagination and fantasy that became part of baseball reality here, that it's no wonder that people were caught up. And for that reason, the town and the team of '68 remain, in my mind, the most surpassing sports memory of my life, even more than the '84 team, which was in itself, of course, incandescent, but that 35-5 start became really more the story of the '84 Tigers, whereas the '68 Tigers had so many more elements to them from start to finish.
2 more questions. The second question, you know, with the power kick happening in '67 with the riots and so forth, and the near miss of the Tigers, it just made it that much sweeter, it seems like, for all of Detroit, for having something positive to celebrate.
No question about it. Everybody was weary, and not just because of the riots. They were weary of the Vietnam War. They were very, very weary of racial strife and the divisions that were creating so much injustice in this town and elsewhere. We needed something to feel good about, something that would really bind us together, something that could give us a chance to high-five one another all the time. And the '68 Tigers did that. I think they were very much part of a tapestry nationally and locally. And for that reason, again, they have an enchanting nature to them that is different from other teams.
Now, some of the players back in the 60s were part of a rebuild that when the Tigers went downhill.
Right.
And then players like Willie Horton, Bill Freehan, and
Right.
they came up through the farm system. What similarities do you see between that and maybe what you see today? Do you see any at all?
In some respects, you saw that, of course, with the '84 team because Trammell and Whitaker and Gibson and Parrish and Morris and Petrie, they all came together over the span of a few years leading to '84. The '68 team was different in one regard. Most of those players were homegrown. They were from this region because it was previous to the big league draft that those players were signed back when scouts simply... 65 was the first year of the draft. So Willie Horton, Jim Northrup, Mickey Stanley, Bill Freehan, etc. were all local guys who had been signed, and that made them a little bit more attached, I think, in a lot of ways, again, to the fabric of the state and to the town.
Thanks for watching Detroit Sports Media Monthly. Make sure you are receiving timely emails on future shows and cutting-edge coverage from our stable of reporters. This is Roy J. Akers reporting.
We always believe we're not out of the game to the last strike. Last minute, last strike. It's an amazing thing, thinking and believing like that. We got beat, but we know how we got beat. We took it in. I remember a lot of time the veteran players, you know, we used to tell the manager and coach, go ahead, we had to take care of some business in the clubhouse. And we took care of our own place. We learned how to police each other, and that's the important thing.
One of the things that inspired the '68 Tigers was their disappointing loss during the '67 season. They explain why it was such a difficult thing and how it gave them that great big boost.
I think the players were came to spring training with a purpose. That was to win. And not worried about the name on the back, but worried about the name on the front. Detroit